Today, we're diving into a fascinating tale of two completely different economies happening at the exact same time. You've got one story of, global anxiety, we're talking snarled supply chains, paralyzed central banks, the whole deal. And then there's this other story, a story of incredible local resilience, of a small region in North Carolina that seems to be building its own future, almost completely insulated from that storm. And make no mistake, that storm is very, very real. As we're speaking, for the first time since 2022, the price of Brent crude oil has blasted past $100 a barrel. Now, that is not just some number on a screen. It's a shockwave, and it's hitting every single corner of the global economy. And it's bringing back a word that, frankly, economists absolutely hate to hear. Market analysts everywhere are pointing to that dreaded stagflation. Think of it as this toxic economic cocktail where growth is slowing way down, but prices, they just keep on climbing. It is quite literally the worst of both worlds. Okay, so let's get into it. Here's what we're going to cover. We're going to start with those huge global pressures, then see how they're playing out across the U.S. From there, we'll zoom right in on the incredible story of the Foothills region to ask a pretty big question. Could a small town in North Carolina actually hold the blueprint for America's economic future? So, first up, the big picture. Why is everybody so on edge right now? Well, it all starts with what's being called the global margin squeeze. The main trigger? The effective closure of the Strait of Hormuz, the world's single most important choke point for energy. With the conflict now dragging into its third week, a staggering 20% of the entire world's daily oil supply has just vanished from the market. The ripple effects were, as you'd expect, immediate, and they've sent financial markets deep into strong sell territory. And this right here is the policy trap that central banks are totally caught in. See, inflation is sitting at 3.1%. Which is way above their target. So they can't cut interest rates to get things growing again. But the economy is already cooling off, so they can't raise rates to fight that inflation without risking a full-blown recession. They are completely and totally stuck. So, how is all this global chaos actually landing here in the United States? Well, to put it mildly, it's complicated. We are getting some very, very mixed signals. So on the one hand, there's a huge positive development. The federal government has rolled out what people are calling a blue-collar stimulus. It's a new tax law, officially the Overtime and Blue-Collar Boost Act, or OBBA. The core idea is simple but powerful. It makes overtime pay tax-exempt for hourly workers. And the impact here could be really significant. Under this new plan, an eligible hourly worker can deduct up to $12,500 of their overtime pay from their federal taxable income. This is basically a direct cash injection aimed at the very people who need it most, helping them fight back against the storm of rising prices. All right, now let's zoom in even further to see how this is all playing out at the state level. Because in North Carolina, we're seeing a story of divergence, an economic gap that seems to be getting wider and wider. And this just perfectly illustrates the K-shaped recovery that's happening on the ground. You've got one arm of the K that is just shooting skyward, right? It's powered by these massive investments in AI infrastructure from giants like Meta, Google, and Corning. But the other arm of the K is trending down as traditional industries and, frankly, state-level budget gridlock are creating some serious headwinds. And here is where that awesome blue-collar stimulus hits a major snag. You see, while the federal government got rid of taxes on that overtime pay, North Carolina state legislature hasn't updated its own tax code to match. This creates what's called a tax gap. It means workers will still owe state income tax on that supposedly tax-free money, which, as you can imagine, is a huge administrative headache. So the crucial point here is that this state-level friction is having real consequences. The budget impasse has state agencies in what they're calling crisis mode, and that slows down permits for new projects. And that global crisis, it's hitting home as a supply chain tax. Basically, everything costs more because of global disruption. You know who's feeling it directly? Farmers, who are facing a massive spike in fertilizer costs, all tied back to that blockade in the Strait of Hormuz. But amidst all this chaos, something truly remarkable is happening. So let's zoom in one more time, right into the Foothills region of North Carolina, and see how they are pulling off a pivot that might just change everything. This quote just perfectly captures the shift in perspective we need right now. We're getting away from all the abstract global trends and putting our boots on the ground, where the economy is a real, tangible thing, a machine built by people making real investments. So the region's success is really being built on a few key pillars. You've got Google dropping $1 billion on a new data center. Steel Warehouse is investing over $30 million in a new high-wage facility.
Corning is launching next-gen fiber optics. And critically, Appalachian State University is investing in its own people with a new nursing lab. It's a complete, holistic strategy.
And look, this isn't just some abstract investment. It is actively resetting the wage floor for the whole area. Just look at this. The average annual salary at the new steel warehouse facility is $62,000. That is nearly $8,000 higher than the county average. This creates real upward pressure on wages across the entire local job market.
And underpinning this whole boom is a major technological leap. Corning, a local giant for years, has launched a new multi-core fiber that packs 4 times the data capacity into the exact same physical space. This isn't just a cable, folks. This is the nervous system for the next generation of AI factories, and it's being built right here.
Now, none of this happened by accident. It's all part of a very deliberate, multi-step blueprint. First, they prepared the land, getting sites certified as shovel-ready. Then, they went out and landed a massive growth anchor like Google. And then, and this part's critical, they're investing in human capital to make sure they actually have the skilled workforce to keep this whole boom going.
So, when you put that chaotic global picture right next to this hyper-local success story, what do you get? Is this just a fluke, or are we looking at a brand new economic blueprint?
It really does come back to a tale of two economies. While the rest of the world is worried sick about stagflation, the North Carolina foothills are pivoting. They're going from an old economy of furniture and textiles to becoming, get this, the cloud's engine room, a high-velocity data belt that seems uniquely protected from that global storm. Which, of course, brings us to our final question. By focusing on tangible things, real infrastructure, high-wage manufacturing, and developing its own skilled workforce, has this one small region accidentally stumbled upon the blueprint for American economic resilience in an incredibly volatile world? That's definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining us.